Hey friends, are we live? Hello, hello. It's Prairie Pheasant, formerly Stevie from South Dakota. It doesn't really matter, I guess, what moniker or what they used to call that, the handle, what my handle is. I'm watching a video. He's mostly on Rumble now because, he tells too much truth, and YouTube has a very definitive limit on truth. And so they've moved a lot of people that I've followed over the years off there. They've either shadow banned them or just moved them or canceled them, et cetera, et cetera. So anyway, he's on Rumble, and he does a thing weekly called, I think, What Happened, ? And this was from last week, so I think it was July maybe 24th. So it's KJ, and his kind of, handle is The Scariest Movie Ever on YouTube. I mean, he still has a site there, but he's not allowed to upload to YouTube, but he's allowed to say, or share a link and say, here, go to Rumble and check out my latest video. I've always liked him a lot. He does really long, like this, I think these What Happened videos, I think he does them on a weekly basis. And they're generally very long, 3-4 hours. And I don't find them too long at all because he just puts together a lot of great information. He'll show clips of interviews, and he showed a clip of an interview between a woman who apparently, I think she ran, was it against Nancy Pelosi, and she's also some type of a news broadcaster. I think she has her own show, Lorraine something Lorraine. I'm going to check her out, but he showed an interview where she interviews this man who I've seen before, not very many times. His name is Ben Tapper, and I think he practices out of Omaha, Nebraska. And he is so bright and articulate, and he has called out the whole Corona thing for what it really is, and he understands. He has a background, an academic background in immunology, and but he presents it in a way that the rank and file, people that aren't educated in that area, can understand. And he's a truth warrior. I'm quite sure he's a born again Christian, and that's what gives him the courage. His identity is in Christ. His identity isn't in his job. His identity isn't in trying to impress people of a certain social milieu. None of that. And but anyway, I just have not watched enough of KJ because every time I see his stuff, I just I'm almost constantly going, yes. So anyway, can't recommend him enough. I know the last video I did, it was about Jack Abelin, and so I think it was a week ago that I listened to his stuff, and then I get, with other things in my life, you move here, you move there, whatever. But I'm going to stay with Jack because he's too good. But I just I've only heard 2 of his sermons since I made that video. So maybe tonight when I'm coming back from Okoboji, I'll listen to Jack. So this is just, maybe again, it's just another quick plug for a man who is a Christian. And Paul talked about Timothy being a kindred spirit, and I would say KJ, as much as I've heard of him up to this point, he would be pretty close to a kindred spirit. And I noticed this video, and again, I think it's from it's called What Happened. You can get it on Rumble. KJ, what's his, KJ Osborne, I think. You can find him on Rumble. Or just go to The Scariest Movie Ever on YouTube, and then he'll link you to the Rumble site. But really highly recommend the one that I think they're all probably great, but this one was just so good. And what was my point about the one that I've been watching? He has just some great interviews again with doctors and people who really understand what the vaccine is really all about and why it's dangerous, and why, for example, informed consent wasn't part of the whole process. And Being a Christian, it's like, there's so many professing Christians that really are gaga about Trump. I'm not one of them, and I don't apologize for it. And there are many things about Trump that are disconcerting. The top two for me would be that he's more than likely a Scottish Free Rite Mason, which, most presidents are of the Masonic order, or some, like Rosicrucian, another branch of Masonry, but they're all linked in together. I guess, the all-encompassing word is Illuminati, which is probably an overused word, but it does mean what it means. People are basically, their god is Satan. They call him Baal, B-A-A-L, and Baal in the Bible, Baal, I don't know how you say it, is definitely, who was worshipped by the tribes and tongues of the world that were, under the spell of Satan. They hadn't yet received the revelation as the Hebrew people did from God. And so they worship demons. G.K. Chesterton has a wonderful section in his book, The Everlasting Man. I think it's titled The Demons and the Philosophers. And what a great, he was Catholic and maybe even a Catholic apologist. But he's one of those Catholics that and I'm not the judge of anybody, but I mean, discerningly speaking, he's one of those Catholics that I believe was a Christian in spite of his Catholicism, certainly not because of it. If you study Catholicism, it's just antithetical to the gospel of Jesus Christ. And I say that lovingly, and I don't say that disparagingly, and I'm not a Catholic basher, but I'd like to do another video on that whole thing. And the last thing I want to say is, so I went to a couple of plays at the Okoboji Summer Theater, or the same play twice, and hadn't been for 4 years. And the play was about Cole Porter, whose name, I knew was basically synonymous with the entertainment theater or musical world of the 20s, 30s, and 40s in America, even into the 50s. But I really never knew anything about him. So obviously, after going to this play twice, and then I did some research on him, I discovered, and I knew he was part of that whole bathtub gin and flappers crowd. I guess Bible would call it, the world, right? But I thought maybe he was one of those people that maybe rose above his station in life and above his time, and maybe one of those people later in life gave his life to Jesus, et cetera, et cetera. You always hope for that. But I did some research into him, and he was very much, heavily ensconced in the homosexual world, and articles said they gave, or, research I did, he gave lavish parties in Paris, in the 20s, 30s, I think, that were well known to be attended by homosexuals and bisexuals, etc. Well, so I feel the same way about the homosexuals and, lesbians, homosexuals, bisexuals as I do about Roman Catholics. I don't hate any of them. I mean, how can you hate people that are at cross purposes with God and barring repentance will literally end up in hell? How can you hate anybody? You have nothing but love and compassion. Like I told my brother today, and I probably will do a separate video on this, but I heard a great testimony from a former homosexual man who's being put on trial in Malta, and the charges against him are just flat out ridiculous, but it's where the world is going as we get into the last days. But he had a beautiful testimony, beautiful. And like I told my brother Paul, I said, Jesus said, he said, he who has been forgiven much loves much. He who has been forgiven little loves little. This man, and I'm one of those, I was forgiven much. And I guess that's why I still have a strong flame and a fire, I guess, to evangelize and talk about, Jesus is the way, the life, and the truth. And, you just can't get to God other than through him. You can't get to the Father other than through him. But anyway, this man's testimony, it's short, he's articulate, he's easy to listen to, and he just has this joy all over his face. And you can't watch that and say, well, this guy's a former homosexual and he's bashing homosexual, not even close. What he is a man who was forgiven much and wants to share it with others who are caught up in that orientation, and it's a very sinful orientation, and caught up in that, and that just to let them know there is deliverance through Jesus Christ. Fantastic. But like I said, I want to do a separate video about that, because the entire subject of homosexuality has been blurred, and not only are the lines blurred in the world, but they're also blurred within the church. The teaching on homosexuality is very straightforward, but what we always have to remember, and this is why I like him so much, he has nothing but love and compassion for those who are like him. I feel the same way. I wasn't homosexual, but I was caught up in sins of other types that were just an abomination to God, and Jesus delivered me from them. And that's why I just, I reach out to people who don't know Jesus yet, and maybe their lives are in severe, deep bondage to whatever, right? We all know the sins that captivate, mankind, and gesturing for a gal to go there. But anyway, enough said. These videos, I always intend for them to be 5-6 minutes, and I think they end up being at least double that. So have a good one, and thanks for listening. We shall hopefully see you soon. Bye.